Hey there, this is Noah Typin, your cattle judge for the Butte Stock Show, and I finally get to talk about the top 5 market steers, and honestly, I thought that it was awfully competitive in the top end of this show, and I was very excited to be able to get the top 5 of them onto the same screen and get to comparing and contrasting their similarities and their differences. And I'm awfully impressed with the one that I like to call my champion. He comes out of Class 5, and I just think he puts the most good together in terms of blending some hard-to-make pieces with some functional, fundamental things that I think practical cattle need to have. He's really square at the ground, really bold-ribbed, and good through the center part of his body, while still being extra athletic in terms of his hip and hind leg. I do think he's very unique in the way he's made up front, long neck, flat-shouldered, and then he opens up very round and bold through the center portion of his body, and that one has a monstrous rear leg laid into him, really big feet and legs. The only thing that I was hoping for was that he'd be able to handle it when he got pulled to lead, and he certainly didn't disappoint me in that regard. I think he's about as square and comfortable at the ground and in his lower joints as you can make one that's loaded with that much power and that much look from the side. Congratulations to you. I think that's an awfully competitive steer. Getting into our reserve is another black calf that comes out of Class 4, and I do think that he has a lot of similarities just in terms of his basic build, flexibility, and balance from the side. I do think he holds a little bit of an advantage in terms of genuine depth of flank. I do think he's got some more genuine width and shape when you get right behind him, especially through the upper portion of his hip. But when I compare him to my class winner, I just don't read him to have the same type of stoutness. I don't think he's as unique and attractive through his front end. Probably gets a little chunkier, if you will, in terms of his throat and brisket, but I think that's being very critical of an awfully good steer that I honestly think could beat the one that I have in champion at a different venue, different day, and different judge, because I think that one's about as good built from the ground up as you can get one. He's loaded with shape, very good through the center part of his body. Really big fan to the blonde steer that comes out of Class 2, and honestly, this was the most challenging decision that I had to make all day, just because he was really the first one that I gravitated towards and fell in love with quickly, just in terms of genuine rib shape and being extra bold and deep and big-bodied. Obviously, he's got an awesome fit job, and the young lady does a great job getting this one shown. You get right behind him. He's really bold and true in the shape right behind his shoulder. I guess where he ends up third for me today is when he gets pulled to lead. I don't quite read him to be as comfortable when he goes out of his hawk and at the ground. I think he's a little hesitant there. I also think he handles the surface with a little smaller foot when compared to the two in front of him, but I think that's being very critical of one that balances up great from the side and one that's got a tremendous amount of mass and dimension working through the center portion of his body. Young lady's black calf that comes out of Class 3 really just ran into quite the competitive show here, and this one looks like a winner from the side. Very level down his top line, athletic hip and hind leg, and his neck ties in high at the top of his shoulder. Compared to the three in front of him, he does get the tightest and hollowest through his flank. I think if we could just make him different there, it would make my decision a whole lot harder, because that one's got as good of a hip and hind leg leg as any of them. I read that one to be really true and bold there through his forerib. Just need to see more flank in him today. The second place calf that comes out of Class 2 is going to be fifth today, and I think this one is probably the most different compared to the other ones in front of him, just from a power and width and muscularity standpoint. I think this one's got as much genuine internal dimension as any of them. He's really big in the upper part of his hip, handles the surface with a big foot, and he's extra powerful just from a heaviness of structure standpoint. But when I start picking him apart and really comparing him to the ones in front of him, I think he's a little different in the way his neck ties into his shoulder. He's a little off right behind his shoulder, and he gets a little shorter spined and just a little more compact in his general makeup. But again, one that's loaded with power, one that's loaded with shape, and he's extra genuine and powerful, especially when you get right in behind him. Again, the young lady does a great job getting this one shown. She should be very proud about how she did today. Congratulations to her.